Do you ever feel caged? Like the borders of modern society are just cramming in on your potential?
No, actually I haven't.
Do you ever knock? Sorry about that. Anyways, if you do, I totally know what you mean, and I think I have just the book for you. Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead. Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead is a fictional account of a young boy named Benji who spends the summer up with his family in Sag Harbor. And this book is full of action-packed adventures and is a literary masterpiece. In Sag Harbor, Colson Whitehead employs immersive world-building and stylized narration to demonstrate the critical importance of coming of age through evolving friendships and deepening identity. So let's jump right in. To start, I would like to say that throughout this entire book, one symbol came to mind: a bicycle. Benji, the main character, is given total freedom for how he chooses to spend his summer. His parents are pretty chill when it comes to letting him and his brother, Reggie, do whatever they want. And so one of the main ways they get around is through biking. Thus, a bike seemed fitting for a motif of freedom throughout the book. Alright, let's try to unpack some of the deep themes that are evident throughout Sag Harbor. Firstly, Colson Whitehead demonstrates Benji's coming of age and newfound freedom through a stylized narration. The book is actually told from Benji's perspective, so we get an idea for what's going on in his mind as events unfold throughout the story. This is evident when Whitehead writes, "We scanned one another's faces for weakness. I'm skinny," I added. "I have skinny legs. There is no denying the twig-like nature of my legs." Whitehead, page 60. Here, Whitehead artfully illustrates what would go on through a typical 15-year-old's mind as he and his friends debate who won't be able to ride in the car. There were 6 of his friends, and there were only 5 seats in the car, so one of them had to go. It's a fairly basic exchange, but the way that Colson Whitehead articulates all of the nuances of each one of his friends throughout the argument in a realistic way is a great example of a strong narrative voice. Additionally, Whitehead states, "I realized the horrible thing. I said, 'It's still in there.' I poked around the wound. The skin was tough and swollen, but beneath that was something harder, like a pearl. I shared the horrible thing." Whitehead, page 186. This is an excerpt from when Benji and his friends had a BB gun fight. Someone had just shot Benji in the eye, and the BB was now stuck in between his eye socket and his actual eye. That sounds horrific.
Tell me about it.
Yep, okay, thank you. Cool. That guy. And while that is kind of gross, no one can deny that Colson Whitehead described the scene in a very strong narrative voice. He unfolded the event in a way that a group of teenagers would, allowing each person to make different comments based on their involvement of the incident. It's honestly genius writing, but not all of the praise should go to Sag Harbor's beautiful narration. Colson Whitehead also created the world of Sag Harbor beautifully. Whitehead uses world building expertly. He bends and shapes Benji's reality in a way that demonstrates the vastness of the world and Benji's ability to explore it. This is apparent when Whitehead writes, "Then there was the next out. How long are you out for?" And the competition had begun. The magic answer was through Labor Day or the whole summer. Anything less was to signal misfortune. Whitehead, page 4. While this might not seem like world building at first, Whitehead is certainly establishing the social world Benji is in. Since Benji obviously cares about how people answer his question, Whitehead determines that Benji, along with his friends, clearly loves Sag Harbor, and the longer they can be there, the better. Additionally, capitalizing phrases like "through Labor Day" is a great example of how teenagers and kids in general like to make simple sentences or phrases into big statements that mean a lot to them. This is evident once more when Colson Whitehead writes, "I pictured what was outside, and trees and houses in gray silhouettes scrolled by. The featureless, unremarkable spots I had no connection to. The gray was interrupted by places that glowed, charged in my mind by association." Whitehead, page 21. Here, Whitehead is describing the world as Benji sees it. That's huge. Remember that. It's not how Whitehead is telling the story, it's how Benji perceives his experiences. Whitehead is going to describe things with emotion and bias because Benji has thoughts that are full of emotion and biased. Whitehead does an amazing job with this, and it's one of the most fun things to notice throughout Sag Harbor. Not only that, but by framing the world as Benji sees it, we also understand more about Benji's identity, which is a huge theme throughout this entire story. We also see throughout the book Benji change the way he talks about certain things in his life, and we can see the evolution and coming of age start to form throughout his identity. This is also evident in his friendships, as friendships change the way he perceives the world, which ultimately ends up changing his identity. But how does all of what I just talked about within these pages relate to a bike? Well, here's the thing. All of these examples lead to one theme of growing up. That's the whole thing throughout the story. It's Benji spending his summer with his friends, and while nothing crazy happens, he learns a lot about himself. Thus, growing up is a huge theme throughout this book, and there's also a motif of freedom. Now, this motif is characterized with Benji's bicycle. The bike is really something that allows him to go explore the world, and ultimately the bike teaches him about himself. Thus, the bike is a huge symbol throughout the book Sag Harbor. Now, here's the thing. Sag Harbor by Colson Whitehead is a masterpiece. By employing immersive world building and stylized narration, Colson Whitehead employs themes of friendship and deepening identity to illustrate the importance of coming of age in his novel Sag Harbor. Now, here's the crazy part. Each one of these themes is evident throughout our entire lives. For example, here's a few pictures of me. You can see that I go from just being a little baby to forming friendships and learn about my family, and ultimately those things shape my identity. And I think that those are themes that we can all apply in each one of our lives and at least take notice of how our identity is formed through different things. You made it to the end. If you're not asleep, good for you, you're in the minority. But thank you for staying awake and for listening to what I have to say. And yeah, goodbye.